Hi, I'm David Pruessner, and I'm going to talk to you further about, in this series we call Ministering with Eyeglasses, about the work that we've learned to do down in Honduras. Again, I remind you, I'm not an eye care professional, I'm not a doctor, in fact I'm actually an attorney, but I learned to do this along with my wife, and we do this about once a week for about 10 years now. So, before we go into the equipment, I remind you, the really only way you're going to hurt somebody doing eyeglasses is if they've had a vision change, like within the last year they've had a fairly sudden vision change and they actually have a medical problem like diabetes and glaucoma, and you're sitting there giving them glasses, and as they suffer in the future they think, well, I saw that doctor. Well, they need to make sure that they know that you're not a doctor, you just have glasses, and if they report to you they've had a vision change fairly recently, then I don't even give them eyeglasses. I send them to a doctor, find the best source we can. Okay, well let's press straight in. When we get to a site, we set up, and one of the first things we do is get all of our forms ready. So we have a form that helps us do the examination and prescribe glasses, and then keep a record of who we saw and what prescription we found that they needed, and then what we actually had, and we dispense it to them, and then at the end of the trip we can go through these hundreds of pages and see exactly what we did, what we need to order for the future. So this is our form. There's nothing magical about it. We simply devised it. You'll notice that this is actually a filled out form for when I was doing my daughter's eyes, but you'll notice that at the top when it has their name, it's actually written in Spanish, because some of the people that are helping us in Spanish is very poor, so it helps them a little bit. Su nombre, cuántos años, how many years, so it has these various blanks in here to fill out. And whether male or female, their age actually is quite important. As you'll see when you're dealing with presbyopia, the date, we usually have a place for a number, so they're number 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and we see maybe 50 people a day. The next category is for the acuity test. That is simply looking at a Snellen eye chart, that standard chart with a great big E on it. It has the smaller letters at 20 feet. 20 feet is the baseline prescription. When somebody talks about getting a prescription for glasses, they're basically talking about what they need to see basically for distance, 20 feet and beyond, and then there'll be like an ad if they need something for closer. But their baseline prescription is what you see distance of 20 feet. That is the shape of your eyeball, basically. The vision is tested with a standard eye chart, a Snellen eye chart. Okay, this one doesn't have the big E, it has different letters, but you put this, sometimes it's up on a tree. You just don't want it in real bright light, because bright light makes the eyes, the pupils constrict and actually changes the vision, actually improves it. And you want their eyes tested toward low light conditions. In these eye charts, sometimes you find the people you're working with don't know their letters, they're illiterate, or they're just not even comfortable pronouncing the letters, so you can have another chart that simply has shapes on it. There's nothing magical about these things. If you know, eye charts actually cost like 20 or 30 bucks because they're all nice plastic and they're bought for clinics. If you're on a real budget, you can make your own eye charts, okay? You simply get letters of different sizes and post it, and get a good idea about what they can see. Now, we need to derive their prescription. Now, if you were to go into a professional office like an optometrist, they would measure your eyes objectively. An objective examination means they don't need to hear verbally from you on what you're seeing. So you first put your chin on a little machine and you look in, and it puts light into your eye, reads it as it comes out, and it arrives at a very accurate prescription of your eye, a 3-part number. The first number is the spherical correction, which is that, you know, plus or minus, which covers 80% of what you're going to be doing. Though the other 2 numbers are far more complex and deal with astigmatisms. Everybody's got a little bit of astigmatism, so, you know, it has those numbers in there. We really work on that first number, the spherical correction, whether they need more plus or more minus. Okay, so how do we arrive at that prescription? Well, we don't use that sort of objective examination. We don't have the equipment for it. We're not trained for it. It costs thousands of dollars. It's hard to transport. The few times I've tried to go down that road, it has not worked out well. We use what's called a subjective examination, which basically means putting different lenses of in front of somebody's face and having them say, I like this one, I don't like that one. It's subjective. It's coming from them in terms of what they see. Now, it's a valid approach. In fact, if you remember last time you went and got eyeglasses, although the doctor would have started off with an objective measurement, when you actually get in the chair and they start putting lenses in front of your eyes to refine it, they're asking you, do you like this lens or this? Do you prefer this one or that one? Well, they're actually resorting to a subjective examination just to make sure that they've got it right, because in essence, the bottom line is what you perceive, what you see. So how do you arrive at that prescription? Well, in a subjective examination, we started with this instrument called the Focometer, F-O-C-O-M-E-T-E-R. It's very good. It's provided through a group called InFocus, I-N-F-O-C-U-S, all one word. InFocus Online is their website, and they also use the words on their website, Visual Compassion. It's a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's very good. It's a very good instrument, very precise. I just found it very slow. It's very tedious. You need to communicate a lot with the person that's reading it, that's looking through it. And since you need to communicate a lot about a lot of details, I found it extremely slow. But it is very precise, and it will measure astigmatisms, which is nice. Instead, we use something that is in some ways a little quicker and dirtier. That is, it's faster, it's not as accurate, but it's very fast and it gets us where we need to go. We prefer this because, frankly, we're giving out generic glasses. So it's sort of funny to work real hard to arrive at an exact prescription if you're going to hand out, sort of off-the-rack generic eyeglasses. And this actually fits that. That is, our eyeglasses come in half diopters, like 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. We have some that are in the quarter, that is 3 1/4, 3.5, 3 3/4. But an awful lot of our work is handing out glasses that are in half diopter segments. And this instrument, which is called the eye test, it's simply the letter I-test, is I can't say enough good about this. It's sort of the heart of what we do. So you simply put your eye up to it, you look at like a Snellen eye chart 20 feet away, and you're turning this wheel of lenses with your finger, and you're picking which lens is best for you, okay? And you have them do this with the right eye and then with the left eye. You do one eye at a time. Again, they turn it with their finger and they pick which lens is best for that eye. You write down the numbers that are on the outside and you say, oh, okay, they're at a -2. If that improves their vision significantly and they get to about 20/20 or 20/30, they would go straight over to our eyeglasses and get the -2 eyeglasses, okay? So when do we vary from this? First of all, I need to tell you where you can get this. This is not easy to find. There used to be one place in the United States that sells it, and they no longer sell it. So if you want to track one of these things down, you're going to spend about $200, and you're going to go to Sussex Vision. This is not Sussex Vision, it's in Michigan. This is Sussex Vision in Sussex, over in the United Kingdom. They're very helpful. It's on their website, or you can call them and order it. And again, it is called the eye test. Well, let's suppose for just a second that you don't have the money, you're not ready to jump in and spend $200 on this instrument. You're just getting started and you're trying to get a feel for this. Is there some real simple, cheap way you can do this? Yes, you can simply get some of these things. These are called retinoscopy panels, okay? You can get them from sort of the same place that sells this sort of thing, that is people that sell optical equipment. It is a series of lenses, same thing as this, in half diopter increments. This is positive, black, red, negative. We always stick with that regime to keep ourselves straight. And so a person would simply cover one eye, and decide, oh, this lens is best for them. Then you would look and see what the number is. You'll notice I've blacked out about half the lenses on both of these because we're not looking to test for extremes like -15 or something. It's going to be extremely rare, and we're trying to make this a simple process and speed it up. So we only leave out the lenses that would cover, 90 or 95% of the people we're going to see. If that doesn't suit them, we have ways to deal with more complex issues, but I'm not going to go there yet. Another approach is simply flippers. It is more or less the same thing. That is simply a way to get lenses in front of somebody's eyes to see what they like. If you do it with flippers, I suggest that you relabel them and redo them so that you have only positive lenses in a flipper, whereas a flipper is positive on one side and negative on the other side of a certain value. And you want to keep it very simple. So that covers the vast majority of what we do. That is the 80% of the spherical correction, whether they need a minus or a plus, and how much. And then they go straight over to the glasses. I suggest you stop there. But some of us want to go further and actually want to deal with astigmatism, and so I'll go into these other explanations. But you may well want to just stop the video at this point, because we approach things on a simplistic level in the sense that we take people that don't know anything and train them how to do it and learn one thing. Step 1, how to deal with readers. Step 2, how to deal with the plus and minus for a spherical correction. And that covers the vast majority of what you're going to do. But if you're inclined to go further, you would go to something called trial lenses and trial frames. So this is a trial frame. It's a bizarre looking little set of frames that will fit on anybody, and through the screws you can adjust it and get this to where it's exactly right. And then you pop in lenses. One is obscured, you pop in a lens, and you already have a general start of the prescription based upon what they told you they used on the 4-opter. But they report to you that that's not, that doesn't get them, like they're still at 20/50 or 20/60. There is something called a Jackson cross cylinder, which is very helpful for diagnosing whether a person has an astigmatism. It's an ingenious little thing. It's negative on one plane, positive on the other. That's why it's called a cross cylinder. You put it in front of somebody's eye. If they have an astigmatism, they will immediately tell you that is much better or much worse. And if it's much worse, you simply flip it, and it is now the opposite. And suddenly, you'll see the expression on their face. It's like, wow, they're seeing the world clearly for the first time. We don't worry about curing astigmatisms, or I should say correcting astigmatisms, unless they are severe. That is, like if they're at about 1 or above. If they're less than 1, a good spherical correction will take care of them. Even optometrists do that. I've been in the same room working with optometrists, reviewing the methods that I use, and literally working hand in glove with them. And in fact, a lot of the glasses I take down are provided by an optometrist I've worked with in Honduras. But if they have a strong astigmatism, that is 1 or above, then when you put this in front of their eye, it will either make it worse if it's on the wrong plane. If you flip it around, it's on the correct plane. It helps. It's not always on the 100 or 90 degree angle, but it often is. And so if you use a combination of these lenses and a Jackson cross cylinder, you can actually diagnose an astigmatism very accurately. And then we have some glasses that we order from Zenni, Z-E-N-N-I, that are preset. That is, we know we're going to see certain astigmatisms of certain values, and we order those ahead of time, and that's how we deal with astigmatism. It's a valid approach. That is, when I've worked in the same room with an optometrist, I've actually had him derive the prescription but send him over to us to get our glasses, because we're dealing with the astigmatism, whereas he used just a spherical correction and dealt with people that way. It's a good approach. That covers the vast majority of the equipment that we use. There's a few other items that you'll want to take down, maybe a sign. to announce that you're doing free eyeglasses. You'll only need that sign for about the first hour. Once word gets around that you're doing eyeglasses somewhere, people will show up. One of the other things that you may need equipment-wise is what's called a near point card. So it's sort of like a Snellen vision chart, but this is for reading glasses for reading up close. So it has large print and then smaller and then smaller. And it's simply to help a person figure out what reading glasses they need. And that covers the vast majority of our equipment. There's some other things that we use for measuring pupillary distance and this sort of thing, but that's a good general introduction. Thank you. I always come back to the fact that if you do this work, you'll find some of its most fulfilling work you've ever done. It's just a little short of a miracle to have somebody sit down and I can tell you many stories, but one of the simpler ones is simply dealing with a guy who's a taxi cab driver, and as I'm testing his vision, I realize his vision is horrible. I mean, he's been driving around all over the city, and his distance vision in particular was just horrible. And you give him a pair of glasses. It's very simple. I mean, it's really something. It's just something that just costs us $1 or $2, and literally they can see things for the first time. And so it's a very enjoyable work. Thank you for your attention. There'll be some other videos, one on sources of glasses, where we get our glasses, and some other topics. Thank you.